enter the so-called Trump whisperer for all of Europe. Looking live at the White House right now, where any moment at that door, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni will get a presidential welcome. When they walk behind those doors, tariffs and the European Union will be subject number one. And you know, we always say when we see it, you see it, and there it is, live and in real time happening. The handshake, the turn to get the photo, although blocked a little bit by Old Glory there, but the thumbs up from the President of the United States as Giorgia Meloni, a conservative, walks into the White House to begin some pretty important meetings. So let's talk about that. Meloni's mission to try and convince President Donald Trump to scale back that 20% reciprocal tariff in exchange to secure a 0-for-0 deal. Now remember this, President Trump hit all European exports with a 20% tariff on April 2nd, but then hit the pause button shortly thereafter. But remember this, it was just a pause. Those tariffs set to kick in July 9th, and that sets a ticking clock for countries to line up to secure a deal. So you can see that lineup happening in real time. So let's start there at the White House with CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro. Aaron, we just saw her go in right there. What does Italy want to get out of this sit-down?
Reed, that ticking clock you mentioned is so important and is kind of the reason why Meloni maybe was the first figure from Europe, from the European Union to meet with President Trump. She has been sort of knighted, designated as the representative of the European Union, has been in touch with the European Union president as she tries to convince President Trump not to just pause the reciprocal tariffs that he's looking to place on imports from Europe, but to get rid of them altogether. Now, what does the White House want from Meloni? Well, senior Trump administration officials say they want to get Italy to raise their GDP spending on their defense from 1.49% to 2%. They've talked a lot about how they believe Europe should have the means to defend themselves instead of relying on the United States. And the administration, the Trump administration, largely sees Italy as a bridge to Europe on trade. They see Meloni as a voice, a conservative figure who is seen eye to eye with President Trump on issues like immigration and Ukraine, and they're certainly using this moment to not just talk about tariffs and the trade negotiations, but as well as about potentially Ukraine and Russia and overall defense in Europe.
Okay, so Aaron, got to ask you about this. While Trump talks tariffs at the White House, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, traveling to Europe to continue work to try to stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. What's Marco's mission?
Yeah, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Paris, France right now, along with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, another Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, as well as French President Emmanuel Macron, as well as several Ukrainian officials aimed at talking about the war in Ukraine. You've seen European leaders voice concern with how the Trump administration has handled the war in Ukraine and their attempts to get a ceasefire. The relationship, at least working relationship with Russia, expected that will come up as well with the secretary, or expected to talk about Iran as well. But just going back to Ukraine, from what we heard from one Ukrainian official, is that not only will they talk about a ceasefire, they'll talk about developing Ukraine's security architecture and, quote, a multinational military contingent to guarantee sustainable peace. That's in part why you see other European leaders there, such as Macron, as part of these talks.
Hey, we also have to ask you while you're there at the White House about this brewing battle between the Trump administration and Harvard University. It continues to cost the university billions of dollars, but so far, Harvard leaders are toe-to-toe with President Donald Trump. What's the latest on that story today?
Yeah, yesterday we heard from the Department of Homeland Security that about $2.7 million in grants were canceled at Harvard University after DHS, quote, declared it unfit to be entrusted with taxpayer dollars. Again, focusing in on the pro-Palestinian protesters, the encampment that we saw at Harvard University last week. In the response, a Harvard spokesperson said that they value the rule of law and expects all members of their community to comply with university policies. One other thing that we're following, and we saw it in reports going into last night, is that the Treasury Department has apparently asked the IRS to look into whether they should revoke Harvard University's tax exemption status. The university saves about $500 million because of that status. We're working to confirm that independently here at CBS News.
All right, Aaron, we want to go live right now. I paused there because we needed to get confirmation of what we were seeing, but We are seeing right there outside Memorial Hall at Harvard a protest happening in real time. My producer's saying something in my ear. Dave, say that again. This is brought to us by our affiliate there in Boston, WBZ. And you're seeing protests happening right now. Is that protest in reaction to the suggestion that Harvard could lose its tax-exempt status?
That seems to be, at least from what I've seen online about some of these encampment protests, a larger protest in regards to universities such as Columbia allowing immigration officials to detain international students on student visas that were part of the pro-Palestinian protests last year. At least that's what I saw. There was a similar encampment that I saw earlier this morning as well as yesterday. Unsure if this is related to that, but that's just what I've heard.
All right, Aaron Navarro live from the White House right now, where we see those live pictures there in Cambridge, Massachusetts at Harvard University.